Hare Krishna and welcome to our Ekadashi series exploring the 26 qualities of a pure devotee as expressed and demonstrated by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So again, I have great pleasure to be here with my friend Siddhanta Prabhu, the mastermind behind the Srila Prabhupada Memories series, and has so kindly gone in and searched for those expressions that match up and enlighten us on the qualities of a devotee. So thank you, Siddhanta. Tell us about today.
Thank you. Yes, we are halfway through the 26 qualities. We're number 13 today, which the quality is that the pure devotee, the perfect gentleman, as Prabhupada describes a Vaishnava, has no material desires. So, one could think, okay, material desires, they could be unlimited. Everybody has a bucket list of things they want to, desires they want to fulfill in this lifetime. But today we're just going to concentrate on 4 material desires, ranging from the gross to the subtle. So we're going to analyze, first of all, the big one that makes the world go round. It's called Maitunya Agara, the shackles of sex desire.
Yes.
Then we're going to delve into examples of the more subtle desires of profit, adoration, and distinction. We're going to have Mahabhuti and Bhakti Sundar Goswami speak about the lack of Prabhupada's desire for sex life. Then we're going to have Guru Kripa and Mahaduti Swami talk about the more subtle desire of profit. Then Bayahari and Bhagavat Prabhu will talk about adoration or lack thereof. And Shori and Pritu will give examples of Prabhupada not desiring any distinction for himself.
Well, okay. This is this will be very interesting and enlightening. And
these are some new stories, very inspiring. Several should be new to you. Bhakti Sundar Goswami I just recently interviewed. So it will be hopefully inspiring and educational for those that can stick around for the entire session. So without further ado, let's jump right in and hear from Mahabhuti.
Thank you.
Another time in Mayapur, another important instruction. It was just myself and Prabhupada in his room, and he had been just finishing. He was writing some things and on his desk, and I just given him some coconut water, his daub, and I was in there straightening some things up and sat down just by the door and chatted a little bit while Prabhupada was working in there. So then Prabhupada's sister Pisama came, and I had her wait at the door first, and I said, Prabhupada, your sister's here. Would you like to speak to us? Yes. Bring her in. So I opened the door to let Pisama in, and she came in and sat down, and they started speaking in Bengali. And so I got up to walk out the door, and I had a few things I thought I'd do before the rest of the people came for that evening, just within a few minutes there. And Prabhupada looked at me and said, where are you going? I was just going outside. I said, no, come sit. So he had me sit down, and the conversation went on with his sister for about another 20 minutes, half hour. And I was thinking, I'm going to be chastised again. I've done so messed up again. And so I was just chanting, and I didn't know what was said. He was all Bengali. And then his sister finished, and she went out of the room, and Prabhupada turned to me. There was no one else there. Prabhupada turned to me and he said, a sannyasi is never alone in a room even with his mother or sister. And then he quoted that verse. Now, Prabhupada wasn't having to show anybody specifically like this, but yet that example was very instructive, that here's Prabhupada and here's his sister, who's very old also, and it's his sister, but yet showing so much by the example. So, you know, for all of our sannyasis out there, it's a wonderful verse. And showed Prabhupada was non-different. I mean, it wasn't that Prabhupada would say something and doing something else. In that way, he affected all of our hearts who were trying on the front of preaching, that our whole moments of appreciation, our moon was just a little time we got to spend with Prabhupada, and that he was pleased with what we're doing. But seeing his example, there was no dichotomy, there was no hypocrisy. Prabhupada was Prabhupada, and as he spoke and as he put in the books is so he lived his life. And that type of leader you can follow anywhere.
Aye. So yes, so now we're seeing how the basis for Prabhupada's detachment, because he was under the rule. He accepted that those principles. Yeah. We have to take that guidance.
Absolutely. And therefore, we're going to hear from Bhakti Sundar Goswami, which follows up with the example that Prabhupada said for sannyasis and ultimately anyone who really wants to advance in spiritual life by not being shackled with the desire for sex life. So here's an example, a difference between the pure devotee, the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and those who are aspiring to be sannyasis. So let's hear from Bhakti Sundar Goswami.
A few days before the Ratha Yatra, the devotee wanted to present Prabhupada a play. Sudama was the director of the play, and the play was about the age of Kali. So Sudama was doing the part of Kali himself. He was dressed in a frock with a big hat, and he had his servant, lust, greed, anger, and envy, and all this, directing them how to bewilder people, how to, entice people like that. So that was the Brooklyn temple, was 13th floor high, and there was one floor just for theater, for 500-600 people fit there. And Prabhupada was surrounded by his sannyasis, and the brahmacharis we were behind. So Rasagya, she was playing the part of Lust, our god sister. She's from Germany, very nice looking lady. And she was dressed so nicely, so beautifully, that when she will come on a stage, the sannyasi will look somewhere else, But Prabhupada had a rose in his hand. He was turning the rose around and smell it and look at the play, at Rasagya, and look at the sannyasi and smile at them and kept looking at the play. We were witnessing all these things, So anyway, at the end of the play, Lord Chaitanya came with the big Sankirtan movement, and he defeated the Kali and his agent, and they closed their ears, frightened, and run away, So it was a big success. Prabhupada liked it very much, the play. So Prabhupada's room was in the 11th floor. I remember that. So he was waiting for his elevator to go there. And maybe there or in the roof later on, Prabhupada told the sannyasis, you should try to understand the mind of the pure devotee. When he sees a beautiful woman, he admires Krishna's creation. Oh, such a beautiful thing Krishna created, but he doesn't get bewildered because he doesn't want to enjoy Krishna's energy. He only admires, but he doesn't want to lord over it. But other men, they look and they get attracted to enjoy it. And that's the difference between a pure devotee, So he gave a wonderful lesson with that,
Oh, inspiration. And yet we have to follow the first example in order to reach the second example. Being very careful.
Very careful, and but this is how we can appreciate Prabhupada's qualities, that
Yes.
he was able to observe and the beauty of Krishna's creation, even in a beautiful woman.
Yes.
And that reminds me of the story. We might have mentioned it before. Srila Kirti was on an airplane and they landed, and you know how everybody gets up in the aisle, gets ready to go. And Prabhupada was standing right behind a woman who was from Italy, and Srila Kirti was right behind Srila Prabhupada. And this individual, this lady from Italy, was very beautiful. And Prabhupada recognized that. And he said to Srila Kirti, "Oh, she's very beautiful." And the lady overheard him. And she turned around and said, "Oh, thank you very much." And Prabhupada said, "No, it wasn't a compliment. It was just a fact."
Yes, yes.
So,
This is Krishna consciousness.
yeah. Now I'm going to present 2 stories back to back. They're short stories, and we can talk about them on the other side, from Guru Kripa and Mahaduti Swami. The 2 stories we can talk about it afterwards, but it will discuss how Prabhupada is renounced as far as receiving money, was not attached to it. And at the same time, the principle of Yukta Vairagya, how we apply everything for Krishna's service. So not being attached to the money, but always using that money for the purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness. So let's hear the 2 stories together, Guru Kripa and Mahaduti Swami.
In the beginning, he used to thank me and say how nice I was doing in the collections. But later on, I put the money, 100,000, 200, he never even said a word. Just put it aside. Not a thank you or anything. People want, you hear the women or something, if you're married or something, "Oh, you never say you love me, you never say," to go there. You know, you ever give me $200,000 a day or a month, I will say something nice, but this is service. And we took it as service. There was no expectation of it. We were waiting for the mercy.
When Prabhupada did come to Honolulu, when he was lecturing, I don't remember very much of what he was saying, but what I do remember was that in one lecture, there was a brahmachari there named Ananda Das. And Prabhupada said something in his lecture about we should be grateful for modern technology. And Ananda Das let out this big guffaw, really loud laugh in a relatively small room. And Prabhupada stopped and he said, "No." He said, "Do not laugh." He said, "Of course we should be thankful for modern technology. Otherwise, how could we spread Krishna consciousness all over the world?" That made a big impression on me.
Yes, the Yukta Vairagya principle. Not for myself, na mama,
Right.
but for Krishna.
Exactly. So beyond profit, we have adoration and distinction. So let's hear from Bayahari, first of all, who will give a really nice, unique story. I interviewed him a month ago in Hawaii. And we were going to talk about how Prabhupada did not desire adoration.
It's Guru Puja time in Bombay Temple. And the temple, the deities had not yet gone over into the big temple. They were still under construction. So it's a Quonset hut, and there's a chipped marble floor, and then Prabhupada had that Vyasa-san with the big round Vyasa-san. Anyway, it was my golden opportunity. It's Guru Puja. I'm in this line, and I've got my flowers, and I get to worship Prabhupada personally. Try that in LA, right? I'm just a rank and filer. So here, and that's one glory of India, was that you did get an opportunity to associate with Prabhupada more intimately. So anyway, I'm standing in line, and I'm thinking in my mind, when I get up to Prabhupada, I said, wow. When I get up to Prabhupada, he's going to manifest himself as this, like he is in LA, how I always pictured him, my commander-in-chief, my Lord and Master, the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead, Prabhupada. And I will offer my flowers. And so it goes like this, a couple minutes. Finally, it's my turn. And when I get to him, This is how he manifested himself. The most humble person. It struck me that he doesn't want anything from me. No, in the material world, that's one reason I became a devotee, really, is that I realized nobody loves me. If I got something, if I got some pot, then they'll be, oh, there we are, we're in my house, or something, you know what I mean? And it was so frustrating. But here, Prabhupada, he doesn't want anything from you. And according to the 26 qualities, does not desire respect for himself. And that was, he manifested that. And also, it made me want to worship him all the more because he's worshipable.
Yes.
Well, he was not only showing obviously his humility and lack of desire to be worshipped or the adoration, but he could also read his heart as soon as he came up.
Yeah.
And show him his true nature, that he wasn't looking for that adoration. That wasn't why he was on the Vyasa-san.
Yeah, even those images that he expressed in the beginning of Srila Prabhupada's, sitting regally. Whenever I see that, you look and you can see that this is being done for Krishna. It's not like, there's no, you can get that sense that Srila Prabhupada's, what he's seeing is, here's my service, not, how I can get something. It's just, here I am, this is my service to inspire these devotees.
Right.
So
there are other times too where the devotees would be singing Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would be saying Jai Prabhupada, but it was for his Prabhupada,
for
Bhaktis Saraswati Thakur.
Yes.
So he was always
passing
looking up the chain.
That's whatever came, it was he was receiving it on behalf of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. That was his move.
Right. So with that, let's listen to Bhagavat, and I kind of forgot what he said, but I think it's relevant here. So
okay,
let's listen to what he says.
Prabhupada was always extremely humble. As exalted and as glorious as he was, he never acted in such a way that people, unlike other gurus who said they were God, or other gurus who said they were something wonderful or something special, Srila Prabhupada always acted in a very humble manner. There was a dispute one time about Srila Prabhupada's position between different senior devotees. And one woman disciple wrote to Srila Prabhupada and said, some of the devotees are saying that you can see what's in the hearts of all of your disciples and in every temple. And the other devotees are saying that that's like a magic trick and that you're not like that. You can't do those things. So the devotees who are saying that, the other devotees are saying that that's diminishing your spiritual prowess. So what do you say? Please tell me. So the secretary asked the question, and Prabhupada said, for a greatly advanced pure devotee, this is not at all difficult. He can easily see what is going on in the hearts of all of his disciples and in all of his temples. So that was, the secretary would ask the question, Prabhupada would reply. So then he said, okay, so I should tell her that you can do this then. And Prabhupada said, I didn't say that. He said, I said for a greatly advanced pure devotee. He could see that. I am not a greatly advanced pure devotee. I am not even a devotee. I am just trying to be a devotee. So in that statement, he simultaneously exhibited his humility and actually also showed us what our state of consciousness should be in trying to develop our Krishna consciousness, that we were just trying to be devotees. So then the secretary said, so I should tell her that. And he said, oh yes, for a greatly advanced pure devotee, this is not a difficult thing.
Mm. Oh, Srila Prabhupada.
Do you remember that one from the series?
No,
Okay, good.
no. That's yeah, the depth. I mean, this is something that I think, well, maybe one day I'll understand, the mood of an actual pure and advanced devotee who is simultaneously in such an advanced pure state and yet thinking of himself or herself in a way, in such a humble way. It's yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to fathom.
it's hard to fathom.
Yeah. Now let's delve into the material desire of wanting distinction.
Uh-huh.
So a very unique story from Shari Prabhu, who's going to tell us about a time he was with Prabhupada in Hawaii.
Okay.
And not sure that a lot of people know this one. So let's listen to Shari Prabhu.
So Guru Kripa started a kirtan. And the conch shell blew, and the artik started. And after the Ghee Lamp was offered, I took it, and for some unknown reason, I went around to all the devotees first and to Srila Prabhupada last. Srila Prabhupada didn't seem disturbed. He was absorbed in chanting the holy name. Guru Kripa was leading. It was very lively, very energetic, lots of dancing. And he was sitting on the Vyasasan we had located there. And he simply took his hands and put them to his head and folded his hands like in appreciation for me offering that to him. So the arti continued, and after the Ghee Lamp, the water was offered to the Gornitai deities we had there. And after it was offered to the deities, I took the Pujari handed me the water, and I followed suit as what I had previously done. I went to all the devotees first, and then I went up to Srila Prabhupada last and sprinkled water on his head very respectfully. And he bowed his head, giving me he appreciated how I had offered him the water. So the kirtan continued, devotees were dancing, and then the handkerchief, and then the flowers, and the pujari offered me the flowers. I went through all the devotees first, and then I went to Srila Prabhupada last, and Srila Prabhupada bent down and smelled the flowers and gave me a big smile. So I had been there for about 2 weeks, and I had been through this procedure previously, and I'd done it properly, and I don't know why I acted like I did in Srila Prabhupada's presence. It wasn't it was totally unintentional. And I remember thinking in my mind, like when you take a meal, you save the dessert for last. So I was thinking, out of respect for Srila Prabhupada, he's the best, I will give it to him last. And the quality of Srila Prabhupada I get from this is his utmost humility. He wasn't thinking he's, such a big devotee, and why are you giving it to all the other devotees first and me last? There was no struggle in his face, like he was disturbed or upset with me, and he did it 3 times. Usually if you do something like that 3 times, you know, someone would be a little upset with you. But he didn't say anything to anybody. Of course, afterwards people did say, other people said things to me, but Srila Prabhupada, I never heard said anything to anybody else. And so I, now, 40 years later, here I am in Mayapur, and I'm a senior Prabhupada disciple, and sometimes the Ghee Lamp comes around, and, you know, I remember that, and I don't, and I, if it doesn't come to me before someone doing in person, I'll remember how Srila Prabhupada acted and struggle with my mind to counteract the pride that I have of thinking that I'm senior and I deserve the respect and the honor and the, the first touch of the Ghee Lamp, so to speak, like that.
Mm. There are a number of these stories like that. You know how Srila Prabhupada is. You know, he sees himself as a devotee. You know, not the Acharya. You know, it's a devotee.
Yeah, not requiring distinction. He knows his position as a servant of Krishna.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so let's finish up with Prithu Prabhu, whose story, this particular story might have been shared with for another similar type of quality, but it's always good to hear some things twice so we can hammer it into our consciousness. So
Okay.
let's listen to Prithu Prabhu and then wrap it up on the other side.
There was a lecture going on. Prabhupada spoke on the 4 classes of men, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And this was in front of a university crowd, a rowdy crowd of students, particularly in Sweden, where nothing is holy and nothing is sacred. And so as soon as Prabhupada finished, the students stood up right in front and said, "Of course, you think you're a first-class man." Prabhupada lectured first class, second class, third class men, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. You're thinking you're a first-class man sitting in a sea of followers covered with flowers, sitting on a high, exalted seat. You think you're first class. And I was boiling, just about to pounce on the Prabhupada. If he would have made just a little sign, I would have just ripped this man into shreds. Well, anyway, coming from Germany, we are very expert to deal with this matter. So, in any way, I was just ready. My blood was boiling. But it was dead silent in the room. Nobody spoke a word. You know, you could hear a pin falling on the ground. And then Prabhupada said, he was pleading with the man, practically speaking. He said, no. He said, like this with his hands. He said, no. I'm not a first-class man. He said, I'm a fifth-class man. And so everybody was shocked. It was dead silent for a little while. And then Prabhupada said, in this deafening silence, he said, because I'm the servant of everyone. And we were just astounded when he said this. And I saw behind his lip was quivering, you know. He was deeply, when he spoke it, he knew it was true, that he was a servant of the whole world. And so 2 big tears came behind his spectacles. And that I saw, because I was right there. How he cried when he said this. And it was so clear that he was really the servant of the whole world, that he didn't think much of himself, like we have heard before, that he was so humble, that he had so much Shakti on one side, and on the other side, that he was so humble that he considered himself, in fact, fifth class, the servant of everyone, the person who was supporting everybody, serving everybody, giving to everybody, and not expecting anything in return. I thought it was such a sublime display of such a pure devotee of Krishna. It was very moving, and I will never be able to forget it.
Yes, I think we have this. I mean, this is a quality that is an expression of many qualities of a pure devotee, and but that sense of not wanting any distinction, that truly amanina. I mean, it's not desiring any respect, but manadhena, giving respect to everyone, feeling oneself the servant.
Exactly.
And then all the rest of it goes along with it. Trinadapi sinichana, tarodapi sihishnana. He tolerated too. I mean, this is another instance in that particular instance where, he could have reacted in a very upset way, but no.
Right. So that's it for today, but thank you for hosting and sharing with
Thank
others.
you so much. It's really such a wonderful, I mean, it's something that I look forward to every Ekadashi, that we can do this this exploration and aspire and be inspired by hearing and remembering Srila Prabhupada.